Ladies and gents, my name is Xander, aka Diaside, and in this video, we're going to discuss the absolute best super in all of Destiny 2 PvP, and it's known as the Arc Staff with specifically Whirlwind Guard. As you might have already inferred, this is then going to be found on the way of the current subclass within the Arcstrider, and I know it's a huge statement claiming that this is truly the best super, but the reason as to why I say this is because literally, it can counter every single other super in the entire game if you know how to use it properly. It doesn't matter if that super is a roaming super like a hammer or a stormcaller or a nova warp or even a gunslinger, as all of those can be countered in addition to the fact that it can counter instantaneous ones, something like a Coda missile on a Striker Titan or maybe something like a Nova Bomb on the Void Walker. Now some of you might be saying, okay, well, is that really the case? And to you I say, yes it is, and this video is going to show you exactly how that's done, aka a tutorial, so that you can be so effective and lethal that not a single Guardian in their super, or rather Guardians in general, are going to stand in your way, and you can truly annihilate, eradicate, and decimate every single Guardian in your path. The only thing left to do is just to simply sit back, relax, take a break at that Kit Kat bar, eviscerate that notification button, and let's jump right into the video. As you all can see from right there on screen, this video is going to be broken down into one of several sections, like preliminaries, then more advanced topics as we go on, and combining all of them together to really get a sense as to how this thing can actually be used in a wide variety of situations. If you'd like to, then skip to one part of the video, but without any further ado, we're going to jump directly into that private match so then you guys can see all the basic maneuvers of how this thing's then functioning. First up is the basic melee attack as you're seeing this very second, but then after this is a double melee, and this is then registered to your typical melee button. Obviously, this is then pressing the melee button once or twice respectively, but this next area of attack is a combo which you press the melee button 3 times to do this overall maneuver that you're seeing now. This is going to be a great lunge maneuver and there isn't that big of a delay after the combo is done. However, this next combo is by pressing melee trigger button, and that's then doing this force palm push, and this is going to have a much bigger range than what the previous combo did, but it's also then going to have a delay after you do so. Now that you've seen that, we're doing a powerful melee attack ensued by a powerful air ground pound attack, and regardless of what you're on, PC or console, this is your trigger button doing so. One's on the ground, one's in the air, and they're associated respectively. Lastly, we have our blocking mechanism, and this can be done in the air or in the ground, it doesn't matter, and this is achieved by pressing L2 for PS4 players, LT for Xbox players, and for PC players, well, you guys have some crazy setups, so do what works best for you. And seeing that, you now have all the tools in your arsenal to actually use this thing effectively, but you gotta be able to use it in certain situations and or scenarios, and so to really find this out, the best way in which I can describe this to you is simply by showing you examples demonstrating different types of tactics and or combos and or situations that all these can be used for with precisely the right timing. Remember, the keyword that I just said is timing, and to really see this, let's go into our first example, and as we go into this engagement, I see some Guardians on my radar, I pop my super, deflect that grenade back at them, and then I maneuver by dodging once, twice, 3 times, it's infinite, it doesn't matter, and then I see a Guardian so I slide, block, and then get him as he tosses his grenade and is going to the air. As I rewind this and play in slow motion one more time, the 2 things I want you to know here is that as soon as you pop this super, you automatically block for that first second every single time you're activating the super. Now we'll get into more of this later in the video, but the next thing that I want you to take away from this is that what I did is I maneuvered in a way in which wasn't going to take my super energy. Dodging and sliding is going to be exactly this, and then I was able to capitalize and go crouching tiger hidden dragon on him, and poof, he was gone in an instant. So now that we kind of understand that, I want to go into a couple aerial examples of how this super can also be used. First example is right here, and so as I'm closing the gap, I then pop my super in the air, do a melee attack closing the gap even more so, ground pound with that gorgeous staff, and then get the next couple of Guardians with a couple more melees. As I rewind this and put in slow motion one more time, the main thing I want you to take away from this is that you can pop your super in the air and then close the gap even more so by simply doing the melee attack in the air once again. This can then lead into a phenomenal ground pound attack and can pretty much take out every single Guardian who's in that vicinity. But the next example that I want to show you is doing this exact same attack, but it's not going to kill a Guardian because that Guardian's in their super. So here I am around the B capture point, and all of a sudden I see this guy with his Spectre Blade, so I go ahead and pop my super in the air, ground pound him, do approximately 137 damage, but then I see a couple of other Guardians and I'm like, aw man, fluff cabbage trash shenanigans, block baby, get that golden gun, and the next couple of guardians for a wonderful triple kill. As I rewind this and put in slow motion one more time, the main takeaway from this is that against enemy supers, you are not going to have this ground pound attack kill them instantaneously unless you block first and then actually take a little bit of damage from that, because when this is the case, you can actually do more damage against enemy guardians, and to see some better examples of that, don't worry, we'll cover that later in the video. But the next thing that I want to show you is the triple melee combo, and we can see this right here. As I close the gap getting on these enemy guardians, I then pop my super directly in their face, saying peekaboo, how you doing? But then do this next melee combo 3 times, melee, 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 and then finally do my force pull and push to actually get that last guardian in their super. As I rewind this one more time and play in slow motion, the biggest takeaway from this is that this triple melee attack can have the biggest overall reach with the lowest cooldown time to actually down guardians. I covered a vast distance here without ever having to actually slow down my super, and that was exceptional. But I would not have been able to take out that last guardian if I didn't use my force pull and push combo by doing melee trigger. To get a better sense of how this combo is functioning as well as the range associated with it, I want to show you this example. And so as I come across this guardian here, I pop my super, get him with ease. Miss my force pull and push combo, but do it a second time, and not only do I get that Sentinel Titan, but I also get an Arcstrider super at the exact same time. Rewind this and play it again in slow motion. The key takeaway from this is that the range on this force pull and push is phenomenal, and not just this, but it can have the biggest overall damage output of any of the combo attacks we've seen so far, and of course, that then means that it can down every single super in the entire game using this force pull and push combo. However, what's the downside to using this combo? The force pull and push always has a massive and significant time delay after using it, so only use it in the appropriate situations. And such examples is actually doing this exact same combo, but in a 180 spin tactic that we're going to see this very second. I call this tactic the reverse force pull and push, and just like in Star Wars using the Force becoming a Sith Lord, here I am in this engagement, I see a super, I use the overall force pull and push, but then do this complete 180 spin, and the reason why this worked is because this had to be a cohesive combo. As I rewind this engagement and play it again in slow motion, what you're then going to realize is that I used one combo, melee to get the first guardian, and then did the reverse force pull and push against the last guardian who was in their super. This not only allows you to reserve more of your super energy, but it can come in clutch in a wide variety of situations, and we'll see such an example of this once again in the next example. All of a sudden, I see this Sunbreaker Titan and I'm like, oh man, we're gonna get wrecked, so I do some evasive maneuvers and then I go ahead and pop my super in the air, do a ground pound attack, but it misses entirely. After I do so, I then do melee to get the first 2 guardians and then do a complete 180 spin and get the next Petrol Blade Guardian directly behind me. Poof, bada bing, bada boom, adios, bye-bye. Now we'll see more examples of this exact same maneuver done actually with other combos, and that's really cool to see that. But for right now, what I want to focus on is blocking 101. In this example, we find ourselves on Pantheon. As I go to the enemy guardian spawn, I then see this guardian, so I push up, pop my super instantly, use that initial deflect to actually take his fusion rifle shots back at him, get the next guardian, and then I see a golden gun, but directly reflect that shot. Even though he's all the way back in that far corridor, I still deflect the shot directly back at him, saying no, not today. The reason why I was able to get that first guardian is because I timed my initial popping of the super perfectly, using that blocking mechanism as you pop the super to actually deflect the fusion rifle bullets at him. But the next thing that I actually want you to notice is this hexagon shape that comes up on screen whenever you're actually blocking. This hexagon shape is kind of like your hipfire reticle, and it has to be almost directly on the enemy guardians when you're blocking if you want to get that projectile that you're blocking to go directly back at them. To get an even better perspective of this, here I am in a fantastic elimination game, and I see a guardian coming towards this little cubby hole, and so what do? I close the gap, I pop my super directly in his face, and then I happen to see this little guy using this Jotun, so I block real fast, toss his Jotun shot at his teammate at the back by the portal, and then resume to actually melee him with a simple melee attack. This all went down very fast, and so you have to make split-second decisions and not hesitate. And the reason why this worked is because number 1, I saw that he was charging his Jotun with that little bit of a light, and I was like, what you doing, son? That's not gonna get me. So I blocked it, went directly aiming it towards his buddy, and then got him presumably and the only reason why that worked is because my map awareness was high enough to actually block via that red little blip. Alrighty, Dia Slayers, I know that was a lot to take in, but now we're going to take it one step further and use all these combinations and tactics to actually take out supers in a wide variety of ways. The first such example is going up against a golden gun in association with a Nova Bomb. So here I am in Cauldron, I hear a golden gun go off, so I go ahead and pop my super. I block directly in his face, but then at the same time, I see a guardian in the back, uses his Nova Bomb, I jump in the air, block, and then resume to go ahead and attack him, deflecting that Nova Bomb somewhat directly back at him. The two takeaways from this is that number one, the way in which you counter that golden gun super is by simply using that hexagon hipfire reticle to deflect the shots directly back at that guardian. But as far as that Nova Bomb went, what you have to do against instantaneous supers is block by jumping in the air. And this can be used not only against Nova Bombs, but also against Blade Barrages and other supers like it. Now I got a hunch a couple of you are thinking, okay, well, what about other roaming supers? Great question, my friends. So we're going to go into this next example against a Sentinel Titan, or rather two Sentinel Titans. I pop my super as close as I possibly can to this enemy guardian without taking damage. Then I go ahead, kill him, finish off the next guardian on the capture point, spin around, block the enemy Sentinel Titan's shield directly at him, and then hit him for a simple attack. The key principal takeaway from this is that whenever you're blocking, you're then going to take on damage, and when you do so, you can actually then inflict more damage on enemy guardians with your successive melee attacks. That's why I was actually able to down that second Sentinel Titan, because I deflected his shield directly back at him, caused damage with it, and then my other melee attacks were then doing more damage, and thus I didn't have to use the actual force palm push. The exact same principles apply when going up against Dawnblades, for example, or even other Striker Titans that are roaming ones. To see this, here we are on Vostok by the sea capture point. I pop my super in the air and then block every single one of these overall Dawnblade shots, and then all I simply need is one melee attack to actually down this next Striker Titan. Guys, I'm telling ya, these exact same principles also hold true as long as you're popping that super initially and then doing some deflection damage with that initial pop. The last example that I want to show you of something similar to this is by going up against another Arcstaff super. And so as we're going to this next engagement, I pop my super, avoid that Arcstrider super, and then get the next guardian at the portal. I then spin around because I'm not sure exactly where he's at, so I block. But then I see him actually on B, block, block, block. It blocks the force palm push, do a powerful melee uppercut by pressing trigger. As I rewind that engagement one more time and play in slow motion, the main reason why this worked is because I blocked the force palm push, deflected all that damage, then made my other melee attacks stronger, and I won't lie, it's a no-brainer as all you simply had to do is do a powerful melee uppercut, and after that it might be safe to say the enemy guardians are a little bit salty. Now that we've kind of gotten a sense as to how we take out these supers, what I want to show you is a combination of all these things coupled together into one cohesive action, and we're going to see that example this very second. As I take out this first guardian with my wonderful beloved and of course the Lumina, I then see the next two guardians in my radar, so I toss my grenade. I toss that grenade and get 2 tick marks, and once I see that, I'm like full throttle baby, rusting powers engaged, I pop my super, get 1 guardian, 2 guardians, who happens to pop a super in the process, dodge, avoiding the Spectral Blade super, get the next guardian and continue that combo, to then do a 180 spin force palm push, and get that last Spectral Blade, no problem, piece of cake. This, my friends, is a compilation of exactly how you're supposed to be using and or mastering this Arcstaff super. It's not going to be easy to do this at first, but with a tiny bit of practice, there is no doubt in my mind that you will get the hang of this and keep one vital thing in your mind at all times, and that is timing. Timing with this super is everything, because if you make one teeny tiny mistake in that timing element, then you're going to get absolutely annihilated. You don't want that, I don't want that, nobody wants that. But if it does happen, don't worry about it, take it as experience and practice, and try and get better with the super. Now the very last thing that I want to show you is how to not use this super. And as I get a couple of kills with my Cold Denial, I then see this guardian with this example in the very back of the map. What does he do? He pops his super behind cover, which in and of itself really isn't that big of a deal, but what I will mention is that he popped it way too far away, and thus that then gave me plenty of time to retreat, and then by the time that it actually gets close to me, he just gets completely stopped by this Cold Denial, and I'm like, well, hopefully he learned to number 1, pop that super closer to enemy guardians, and number 2, pop it in close environments and in close engagements. When you're in close quarters, this is when this super is functioning the best. There is no doubt about that in my mind. But what I also will say is that it can function in open environments as long as you happen to maneuver properly by dodging, sliding, blocking when necessary, and so on and so forth. If you were to ask me, this Arcstaff super on the way of the current subclass is the best super in the entire game because it can literally counter every single other super, period. My only other advice to you, my friends, is to not get frustrated. You're going to get wrecked using this super, as I did plenty of times, but that's part of the process of learning and understanding how this thing works. But once you master it, oh boy, is this thing going to pay off and definitely be worth that wait, because it's going to be one of the best supers, if not the best super that you could possibly ask for. And having said that, I'm exceptionally curious to hear all you guys' thoughts on this down in the comment section below. Did you like it? Did you not? Do you agree? Do you disagree? And if so, by all means, I want to hear your thoughts and processes, and regardless of whatever you say, you always know that I'm going to respect your opinions, and that is something that I can guarantee. Lastly, be sure to watch the newest, check the latest, and share, comment, like on social media, because you are the greatest. That's pretty much all I've got for you as of right now, Dia Slayers. And as always, GG, TNT.